Good afternoon. My name is Dooley Goudeau. I'm your meteorologist. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and we are going to talk about that big East Coast storm that's raving havoc from the southeast to the northeast with heavy snow, heavy rain, freezing rain, ice, sleet. There is thunderstorms. There is even tornadoes in the southeast. All the way down into Florida. There was tornadoes in Florida yesterday, really strong thunderstorms, a lot of heavy rain, a lot of heavy snow. Some people could see as much as 20 inches of snow in the northeast. So we are going to jump into my big fancy map provided by WSV3, which is a wonderful software that I discovered that I love playing with when I do my weather forecast. Let's jump into our big fancy map. So here it is. So we're going to look at the chaos that is the East Coast right now. If you're anywhere along the eastern seaboard, I'm praying for you today. I want you guys to be safe. Make sure you got your bread and milk to get you through the next couple days, because it's going to be a mess. And a lot of power outages have been reported in the southeast. Florida has seen some power outages from those tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. And I'll even tell you when we can see snow in Florida. I was looking at some of the maps of the models and snow. And I kid you not, one of them indicated the possibility of snow later in the week. So we are going to keep an eye out for that. See how that develops. I'll show you that. It's really cool. A lot of stuff going on with this crazy storm. And this is not the only one that the Northeast is going to deal with. There is another one in the wings waiting that I will show you too on the maps. On some of the forecast models indicate another potential snowstorm for the East Coast and a rainstorm, a lot of thunder. But that storm is coming up from a different path. So I'll show you how that one's going to evolve. But let's take a look at this one. As you can see, winter storm warnings for here is North Carolina, here is South Carolina. There's heavy snow in northwest South Carolina. I'm going to show you video from some friends of ours that are storm chasers. This guy drives around and just records dash cam footage of storms and the effects on the roadways. So we're going to take a look at that later on. Some of his video, which is really cool. I really love these guys. I've been following them for years. Stormchasingvideo.com. You can check them out on YouTube. I'll provide a link to their channel in my description, so check all that out. I'll provide links to all the sources, the National Weather Service, pivotalweather.com, and some other websites that I use to access the forecast models that I use when I generate my weather forecast. And by the way, my name is Dooley Goudeau. I am a student at Mississippi State University, majoring in meteorology. I have big, grandiose educational plans. I plan to pursue all the way up to the PhD level in meteorology and meteorological related subjects like geology and environmental science. So I'm going to take you on that journey with me as I pursue my education, and some of my videos will be topics covered in class. So I'm going to produce, and I think it will be helpful because it will help me study and learn the material if I can relay it back in these videos. So stay tuned for the ride with that. It's going to be really exciting. I'm going to cover a lot of severe weather events. Yesterday I produced a video where I provided footage from the Tonga volcano eruption. I'll provide a link to that video at the end of this video. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned and let's enjoy the ride together. So we're going to take a look at more of the warnings associated with this storm in our big map. As you can see, winter storm warning for West Virginia, Pennsylvania. It extends to southern Ohio, as well as Kentucky, Tennessee. As you can see, winter weather advisories as far south as Mississippi. Here is Alabama, Mississippi's here. Also, winter weather advisory. Yesterday, Arkansas and Missouri got pummeled, but as you can see, the storm is now pushing east. It's going to ride east to the eastern seaboard, then head northeast to the New England states and Maine. So you guys are in the gun now. So for heavy snow, so be prepared. Make sure you still got time to go right out, get your bread and milk, so that you can hunker down. As some places could see as much as 20 or more inches of snow, especially western Pennsylvania, upstate New York, New Hampshire, and Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts is kind of on the borderline. Boston is on that borderline of rain and snow, but could see a brief period of freezing rain while it changes over to snow, and then maybe I'm guessing Boston could see 6 to 10 inches of snow possibly, as they're gonna get lower totals as they have to deal with rain when this system starts for them. It hasn't quite made its way to that section of the Northeast, but it's coming. So hold on, it's coming. And it's about 19 degrees in Boston right now. Perfect snow. It's going to be, we want to see warmer temperatures around 30 where you get that wet snow. Good for skiing snow. But this is going to be a drier, powdery snow coming up the Northeast. But it's going to start off as rain. As you can see here, some of that rain coming in. And here's that snow wrapping around in that divergence on the backside of this low as it races to the Northeast. So be prepared, hunker down. We're going to move on to our next map. And our next one is going to be what the GFS is showing us. So let's take a look and have fun with our GFS model. This is where the storm currently is located. As you can see right now, it is doing pretty good. It's a 996 millibars, so that's a decent storm for right now. It's a lot of moisture with this storm. You can see these rain bands coming up from the south out of off the Atlantic. As you can see, the front has actually passed through Florida. That frontal boundary has cleared the South Florida, as you can see. So it's in the 40s and 50s in Florida. So all the iguanas been paralyzed because they don't like the cold. So the iguanas are probably falling out of the trees right now. So if you're walking on the streets in South Florida or in Orlando, Tampa, watch your step. Don't want to step on those iguanas because they can't handle the cold. They'll be fine. Just leave them there. They do what they do. And when the weather warms up, they'll come out of their coma state and they'll be bothering you again. So, watch out for that in South Florida. Some of the wildlife down there is not built for the cold weather. So, keep that in mind. If you see an iguana laid out, frozen and not moving, he's fine. Just give him time and wait for the weather to warm up. He'll be okay. That's just something they do to protect themselves from the environment. So as you can see, our big crazy storm here, and let's let it go up the East Coast. And here it is when it gets to, we expect that tomorrow on the 17th. This is where it'll be on Monday. We can see that little bit of dry air mixing in, because when you get those really strong storms, they pull in that colder air. See these isobars, this is coming from the north. As you can see, that is coming down and wrapping around that low pressure center and pulling in that cold air, that drier air, which kind of dries out the system a little bit because that wraparound is so tight. This is what you call a closed low. When those isobars make a complete circle around, that's what's called a closed low. That circulation is making complete revolutions around that center of low pressure. So that dry air you see right here, that's called the dry slot. So that actually can bring down your precipitation totals for these areas. Eventually you'll work out of the dry slot, and that dry slot will move north with the progression of the storm, and you'll get on the backside of that. It's like in a hurricane. When you see in a hurricane and you get that eye and it's dry in the center of a hurricane, it's similar to that, but not exactly the same dynamics or physics taking place, but it's kind of similar because there is a way out. See this here, where the precipitation looks less, is creating that wraparound dryness that's in, but it actually adds to the strength of the storm. So as you can see, as we progress ahead, you will see our storm as it moves to the north. Let's bring it back here. We went a little bit too fast. The maps is kind of, the controls are kind of finicky. So let's click ahead. Let's do it like this. There we go. See here, see it hits the 975. This is borderline strong tropical storm, category 1 hurricane. Barometric pressure is not a hurricane, but this is the kind of pressure readings we see from strong tropical storms and Cat 1 hurricanes. So that's a very strong storm system there. As you can see in this map, we're going to let it go forward a little bit more as it heads on up to the northeast to Nova Scotia. And then it starts to show signs of weakening. Here is the next weather system that's going to affect us in the north central states, excuse me, because I live in Minnesota. This one is in Minnesota. This is going to be in our forecast for the 19th. I believe the 19th is Wednesday. So when we get to the 19th, we may see a shot of some flurries and light snow. This is not a very strong system. It's going to bring a lot of cold. There's going to be a lot of wind on the backside of this system. So here, if you're in Minnesota, if you're in Wisconsin, in the northern Minnesota, north and central Wisconsin, expect to see a round of snow and then some strong gusty winds and another shot of cold air. But remember, this winter, La Nina. But what's different is that the NAO and the PDO have been negative. The NAO has been neutral to negative to positive. It hasn't been able to make up its mind. So we haven't been seeing that blocking out in the North Atlantic, blocking highs, which slowed down the progression of the storm. What has been happening is that big blocking high pressures have been over eastern Canada, northern Canada, like Nova Scotia and in the Hudson Bay. They've kind of been in that region. So a lot of the storms that come off the eastern seaboard have been forced out to sea by that block. So that's what we've been seeing. So with this system, it's going to stay in the north, to the north. So it's going to ride along the Canadian-U.S. border. It's going to bring snow, light to moderate snow, maybe a few inches. These northern storms don't really tap too much into the Gulf of Mexico moisture and the moisture off of the Atlantic. So it's not really pulling that Gulf Stream moisture from those warmer temperatures, the warmer waters in the Atlantic and in the Gulf of Mexico. It's working with a lot of cold air. Usually storms power, a stronger storm, if it can tap into moisture, that power of that storm translates through the moisture, heavy rain, snow. But storms that don't tap into a lot of moisture, that are stronger, tend to produce very tight isobars and a lot of wind. They tend to be wind producers because they can't really tap into that moisture. They don't really have that moisture source to tap into. So what they tend to do is to be really strong wind producers and really pull that cold air on the backside. If you see on the backside, these isobars indicate that air flowing into low. Remember, air flows from high elevations, high pressure, to low pressure. Goes from high to low. So this high pressure here over the northern parts of U.S., southern Canada, that air flows in this direction, counterclockwise, anticyclonic. Say cyclones go this direction, right? Anticyclones go this direction. So that air is coming down from the backside of this high across a ridge, called a ridge. It's called a high pressure ridge because think of it as a hill. As high pressure as a hill. You go up the hill and over the hill. It's slower going up the hill, but when you go down the hill on the leeward side of the hill, you go faster. So that air rushes down the side of the hill and into the low pressure center. That's why you get those strong winds. those isobars really tighten up when you have a deeper low, because it's like sinking into a hole. And the further down you go, that you go down into that hole or down that cliff, the faster you go. That's why in the Northwest, in the Northeast up here, in the northern states, in the plain states, I used to live in Oklahoma and Texas, and I can tell you many times in the winter, you would see days where it would just be windy, 60, 70 mile an hour winds all the time. Like, why is it so windy? You get those flat open plains. There are no mountains to disrupt that airflow. This is why you see so many tornadoes in the Central Plains. Say, air can travel great distances unimpeded by geological features. So those winds can travel across and hit this low pressure center, and we can easily see with 40, 50 mile an hour wind gusts, especially in the outlying areas, out in the country, out in the forest. The cities kind of create, if you're in downtown Minneapolis, St. Paul creates a divergence of the winds because of the buildings. So you won't see that because of the city, the geology of the city, and how it changes altitudes with the buildings. So it deflects a lot of that wind. So the winds you don't notice the wind as much in the cities as you would if you were out in the country. So that's that weather system, and we're going to see it move. It's going to stay inland. It's not going to really tap too much, and it's going to move out to sea because of where that blocking is in the North Atlantic. And it's a little bit further west, so it's forcing things out to sea. So that's where we are with that. All right. If I seem energetic, let's give a shout out to our friends at Dunkin' Donuts where I got coffee from this morning. So I'm hyper, which is great. So I should drink coffee before I do my weather forecast. I think I'm a lot more energetic here. Here is the next weather system coming across that ridge. Now, the interesting thing about this ridge, this is what we call the Continental blocking high, which is a kind of a semi-permanent feature to the United States because of the Rockies. Air flows up over the mountains and comes down the backside of the mountains. And what it does, it creates high pressure because that air the air rises up. This is why you see rain, snow on the westward side of the mountains. But then that high pressure is created because of the Rocky Mountains. So this is a feature that drops south. It drops further south. The sun angles dictate a lot where this high pressure set up. This same area of high pressure here, if it was June, July, August, this would be here a lot. And when it's here over the four corners, it's called the Four Corners High. And what it does, the circulation going this way pulls Gulf of Mexico moisture and tropical waves along the intertropical convergence zone. And that is where the sun angles hit the ocean water at a direct angle. It's a direct 45-degree angle. So what happens, you get those big thunderstorms that are always out along the intertropical convergence zone. It's kind of like that boundary between the tropics and the maritime climate, the maritime climates and the tropical climates is that intertropical convergence zone. A lot of tropical systems develop off of the intertropical convergence zone. So that moisture is funneled from the tropics to the southwest in July, August, and early September, and it creates what we know as the western monsoons. This is when you get afternoon thunderstorm over the mountains and the deserts in the southwest. These are beautiful thunderstorms, and they often have dry lightning or dry storms because they're so elevated. A lot of the rain evaporates before it hits the ground, but the lightning is spectacular. When I used to live in Tucson, it was the one thing I loved about living in the southwest. The summer monsoon thunderstorms were beautiful. I'll have to find video of some of the lightning in the from the southwestern monsoon, and I'll share in one of my descriptions in a future video. I think it's beautiful. I loved it. I thought Tucson used to have spectacular thunderstorms. The lightning, the thunder would be so loud it would blow your eardrums from those positive lightning strokes. These storms would have lightning that can jump from the cloud to clear sky, and that lightning would shoot for miles away. So this is why they tell you, if you hear thunder, take cover, because you don't have to be under a thunderstorm to be struck by lightning, because lightning can reach you up to 10 miles away from the storm. So keep that in mind. If you see thunderstorms, be on the lookout and be prepared, because just because it's not directly overhead don't mean that it can't be a danger to you. So keep that under your hat and take that with you. So we're going to progress through a little bit of science for you, because I think that's something I'm very passionate about. It's severe weather and thunderstorms. I love that. That's my favorite feature of the weather, my favorite thing to study. I hope to one day to be out there chasing storms with you guys and sharing that footage, okay? When our spring and summer months come and we start to see thunderstorms here in the Midwest, in the upper Midwest. I am in Minnesota. So that is our storm right now. Our next system. See, now let's show you this one. Let's take a look at let's go back here. The map kind of goes nuts. Okay, so here. This feature right here, I want to show you. This is going to be our next East Coast storm. So let's go. Let's progress. Let's move it. See that little area of low pressure right here? See how snow is going to be mixing in Arkansas, Oklahoma, North Texas, even parts of Louisiana, Mississippi. Could see a few flakes fly. And is this weather system gonna become, you see, it's gonna kind of follow the same track as our current storm. It's gonna hit up the East Coast. There it is. But you see, it kind of gets pushed out to sea a little bit. So it gets a little bit further out, a little bit out to sea. But it still can throw some snow on the wraparound for the Northeast. See, this is Boston right here. You can see some Boston might see some snow. A little bit of rain mixed, snow mix in there. And that is going to be on the 24th. But here, let's keep in mind with the GFS. The GFS likes to forecast for 2 weeks out, right? On these model runs for 2 weeks. Once you get outside of 4 days or 5 days, take what the GFS says with a grain of salt. Because it's not the official forecast. This could be totally wrong. Ignore what it said. All it is guidance. I don't use this and say, because the GFS says this is what the weather is going to be. No. We use a combination of models, different models. Some may say something different. They're wacky, going to be all over the place. But as you get closer to the event, those swings get less and less. So each run of that model, each time you produce a model, it gets narrower and narrower. Then you can kind of pinpoint. But all it is guidance. It helps us determine what the atmosphere is going to do. No computer model can perfectly predict what the atmosphere is going to do. That when the meteorologist making that forecast, that's where his or her experience come into play. This is why we learn physics, why we learn chemistry, why we learn some of the things we learn, because you have to learn how the atmosphere moves. And based on your knowledge of what the atmosphere can do and does under certain conditions, you can predict the weather. But these models is just a guideline to follow. It helps us, gives us an idea of where to start. Let's say we know that something is up here, something downstream, something upstream is forcing this storm to go the direction that it's going. But it doesn't always follow that curve. Sometimes it can double back on you, if depending on what happens to those features downstream and upstream. things in front of it and behind it can affect how a storm is going to behave. And each meteorologist have to be able to understand that and have the knowledge to accurately predict and work with those parameters and those variables. This is why we learn calculus. This is why we do differential equations, so that you can work with linear figures and variables. Because there's a lot of variables when it comes to forecasting weather. There's a lot of things we don't know. Just because we take a lot of data, that data doesn't explain everything. So some things we have to have that knowledge of the atmosphere and how it works. So here he is with that weather system. And then there was one other thing. Now we're just covering it because, you know, it can be crazy for now from these long range forecasts. But I do want to show you what I saw yesterday. Whether or not it's going to come up in this run, I have yet to see because I haven't looked yet. So let's go out. There it is. There is what I wanted to show you. But what I wanted to see, what I saw yesterday was something we call a cutoff flow that appeared off the west coast. Came across the hang on a second. Let me unclick from that. There we go. It came across the southwest and moved into the Gulf in the southeast states and then went up the east coast. But I don't see that system today. See, that's the thing about these models. Let's see. Let's go ahead and see if it shows up. There. Okay, let's see what this one does. So the model ran out before, so it's not going to show. See, what I saw yesterday is not showing up today. So that's how these models can be crazy like that. So just because a forecaster might see something, oh, look at this storm, it may not be there on the next run. This is why we continuously run these things and fine tune them as we go. What I saw yesterday, I got excited about. Ooh, this is a potential, because cutoff lows, we call a weatherman's low, because they are cut off from the main circulation and they act crazy and can go all over the place and are hard to predict. And they often show up off the west coast of Southern California. And they just pop up. You can have a sunny forecast, one of these stupid things pop up and make it rain. The stupid weatherman was wrong, because weather cutoff lows cut off from the main circulation, the main pattern, the main airflow, create havoc. You know, hard to forecast. They are hard to catch, and a lot of models don't pick them up. So this is why you have to have different models, because some models are better at picking up these crazy things than other models. But let's move along, because this video is starting to get longer and I'm trying to keep them shorter. So let's move on to our next model here. This is the European model. This is one of my favorite models, because I think it handles medium range forecast. That's what it stands for. ECMWF stands for the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting. So that's what EMWCF stand for. So this one I think, is a little better at handling these three. I'm going to show you a difference in what I'm currently seeing. This is where we currently are. This is where everything's are current. You see this right here? This is freezing rain. This is the European model. See how well that picks up? Now we are going to click over to our GF. Let's click back to the GFS, right? This is our GFS. Let's go back to that beginning. You see the GF. Hang on a second. Let's go back to our GFS. I have to operate this on two different screens, so sometimes I'm not good yet at this stream at this thing yet, controlling two different screens at once. See this here? You see the same area? It doesn't show up as well. You see, it's a smaller area of freezing rain here. This is the GFS, shows that freezing rain. And this is the trickiest part of this forecast, is pinning down where that freezing rain is going to set up. And you see here, this is on the eastward side of the Appalachians. This is coming on shore. This is air going up the ocean side of the Appalachian Mountains. And as that air go up the mountains, it hits what's called a cold dam because it's colder aloft in the mountains. And once that air hit it, that transition period creates freezing rain because that freezing goes from the surface up. If you look at the sounding, let's see if we can get the sounding to pop up. Okay, you see this right here? This is our 32. This here is where the 32 degree marker is. You see, this is from the weather balloons that the National Weather Service launches every day. These things take a vertical picture of the atmosphere as they go up. And you see that 32 degrees, the marking line is here, and this is that convergence here. You see, this is where that freezing line is. That's why we think that, see, this is only 1 kilometer above the surface. So this is about 3/4 of a mile above the surface. 3/4, yeah, 1 kilometer. This is about 1 kilometer above the surface. And that precipitation falling doesn't have time to change back to snow. See, right here is snow. Right here at this 6 kilometer to 3 kilometer, or this 3 kilometer to 1 kilometer, if it's thawing out. This is a warm bulb here, and it's turning to rain. So it hits freezing again right about here, but it doesn't have enough time to switch back to snow. So this rain is freezing as it makes contact with the surface. That's why we look at the sounding. And this is what the sounding is showing us. And this is the route basically that our balloon took as it went around. And this is our median, our center right here of the map. This is our center. And you can see right here is where that turns to snow. Here is our freezing. This is all frozen precipitation here. This is rain. And this is where it turns back to frozen again. So that is a look at that sounding for this area, which I think is around Charleston, South Carolina. So we can see that freezing rain. But if we go to where our Euro model, our Euro again shows that better. Let's go back here. It likes to jump ahead. It's really sensitive. See that right there? See, it's a much larger area showing that freezing rain. And that freezing rain is particularly dangerous on the roadways because it's freezing on contact. So it can make that slick. I don't care if you drive a 4-wheel drive or not. You hit one of those patches of freezing rain, you ain't stopping. You ain't turning. You're not doing any of that. You going that forward momentum, whatever your vehicle was doing, is going to keep doing until you get stopped, until you hit something. It's going to be an immovable force that you're going to run into to stop. You're not stopping with this much freezing rain. This is a lot. Looks like it could be as much as 1/4 to 1/2 inch. A 1/2 inch. That's a lot of freezing rain. That's about this much on the surface. It's going to stick to windows, trees. Trees are going to break. Power lines is going to bring down power. There are going to be power outages. This is going to cause more damage than the snow. I'd rather have the snow than this much freezing rain. Trust me. You don't want the freezing rain at all. If you're in this area, you're sleeping in the dark tonight. I can pretty much guarantee you sleeping in the dark, okay? Because you're not going to have any power. That weight of that freezing rain, that ice on the power lines, it's going to be snapping power lines like they're twigs, nothing. So that's what the European model is showing. Let's move on to our next model, our ensemble. This one is going to tell us how much snow to expect here. So let's go out to, let's say in the next 48 hours. Let's go out 48 hours. As we look at this, the Northeast, you see the Northeast, especially in the western sides of Pennsylvania, upstate New York. If you look at our scale here, as you can see those colors, you find those colors here, that's much as 15 inches or more of snow. So some places in these areas can see as much as 15 to 20 inches of snow. Let's go out 72 hours. And you see that as this storm moves out, and you see how much snow you can see. We're going to see a little snow here in the upper Midwest, but here is an inch or less. We're going to have a series of very weak Alberta clippers come through. These are going to be dry systems. All they're going to really do is make the temperature go up and down. Warm day when the storm is approaching because of warm air advection ahead of the front. These are not closed flows. These are really just waves of lower pressure. So ahead of the wave, warmer air advection. Behind the wave, cold air advection from the north and northwest. So we're going to have those temperature swings here in the north central, and then the Great Lakes areas where I live. We'll see those temperatures go up and down, up and down, up and down, and little waves of weak low pressure. They're kind of moisture starved, very cold, very dry storms. Not a lot of moisture. That cold air might be able to squeeze out a little bit of snow. It's going to be a dry, powdery snow. We might see a dusting to an inch here and there every other day. So that's going to be our weather for the next 2 weeks or so, according to the models. But that is very common in January here in Minnesota. January, we see that a lot. We don't really see a lot of big organized weather systems in the north like that in January. Usually start to see organized snowstorms in February. Mid to late February, we start to see the big one-footers start to come as warmer air. As that atmosphere starts to prepare for spring, it's preparing for spring. So you start to see, because remember, our days are steadily getting longer as we head into the vernal equinox, as we head into spring, right? Our days start to get longer. Sun angles start to get stronger further north as we move in the time towards March. So with those stronger sun angles, create to a better shot at mixing in the boundary layer, which is the layer 1 kilometer to the surface, from the surface to about 1 kilometer heights. It's called a height, which is the height, the area from the surface above the earth. That kilometer creates more mixing. Those air molecules get to moving around, so those temperatures warm up as we move closer to spring. That don't mean we can't see below freezing temperatures. We often do, but that interaction becomes more frequently, and that range in temperatures gets higher, and it leads to more of those big snowstorms. That's why we start seeing those in the last end of February and March. That's why we are up here. If you live in Minnesota, you're familiar with our March snowstorms. That's why that's happening, because the atmosphere is priming for spring and the warmer weather. But that's the price we pay for warmer weather. Warmer weather often brings storms, bigger snowstorms, because you're still battling it out for warm and cold. Minnesota wants to stay cold, but nature says, hey, you guys need to warm up. But that cold air is fierce. It's heavier. It wants to drop down, especially if the polar vortex and the NAO is negative. That cold air wants to really push that warm air down and keep that warm air south, but that warm air wants to come north. It's like, hey, the sun is telling me to move north, man, because it's supposed to be warmer up here now. But that cold air is like, no, you don't. You stay your place down to the south. We'll let you know when it's time to come up here. That cold air said, nope, we're the boss right now. So that's what's happening with that. All right. So if you go all the way out, this is how much snow we expect to get in the next 2 weeks. Look at all that snow. Ooh, it is crazy in the Northeast, man. Wow. Several big snowstorms are possible for the Northeast. This is 30 feet. This is 30 inches of snow. As you can see these colors right here, right there, that's like about 40 inches. You see that? How that correlates with our guide right here? 40 inches of snow over the next 2 weeks for parts of Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. That's pretty crazy. Let's move on to our next map. Let's go to our watches and warnings that the National Weather Service posts. As you can see on our watches and warnings, The big feature on the East Coast is this guy. This is our crazy northeast storm right here. All of this here is winter storm warnings, winter weather advisory. This one is for that ice. This is for that freezing rain ice advisory right here. This is for heavy rain and flooding down here. And this is for this is a tornado watch across South Florida. Those thunderstorms can produce tornadoes. I used to live in Miami. Back in '97, when I lived in Miami, I remember a tornado that I saw on Miami Beach. This tornado, I can find video. I'll link again to maybe in this description if I remember when I post this video to show footage of that tornado in '97 that developed in Little Havana and moved eastward toward Biscayne Bay. And they got this live on video, the news did, and it went from Biscayne Bay across into South Miami Beach and went offshore where it dissipated. But this is what's possible in Florida today. The potential for tornadoes in the Miami-Dade. I used to live in Aventura in Miami. So, yeah. And that's that. And this is for severe thunderstorm watch. So, so this storm has everything. Tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, heavy rain. It's got ice. It has snow. A lot of wind. So, anything severe weather related that you could think of, this storm has it. So that is pretty crazy. Really, there's a lot of buzz. This storm is well advertised. It's been advertised for 2 weeks now that there was this. This is when the models did get it right and come together. So kudos to the folks at the National Weather Service, which provide these maps that I use to show you guys. They're doing a great job. Maybe one day I'll work for the National Weather Service. So we'll keep it. Hope for that. Pray for me for that. That dream is. That's the path that my education is going. Is for to meet the qualifications to work for the National Weather Service or the federal government. So let's take a look at our national radar here. In our national. Wait. Let's see. Let's go to our national radar. So our national radar is here. I need to go to my other clicker and click on the national radar. So this is that big storm. As you can see right here in Columbia, South Carolina, you can see that where that freezing rain, snow in Atlanta, Memphis saw some snow. Nashville is right on that boundary of snow and rain. And then it's rain and rich snow in Richmond, Virginia. Jacksonville now is in the clear. They saw severe thunderstorms. And they also saw tornado warnings. But they were radar indicated tornado. I don't think there was any eyeball spotted. But the radar spotted rotation. And issued a tornado warning yesterday in Jacksonville. So that's what's going on with the national radar. And let's go here and see. I was watching a video earlier to help me do something with, there we go. There it is. Let's go to our video of these guys here. This is live. This is actual live footage of the storm, and I think this is near Charlotte. And the video don't want to play, but this. Let's click this here. I guess this guy just drives around filming the storm, and it doesn't want to play. I guess the video is. He might be done. So anyway, I wanted to show that video. He was streaming this for hours. This guy was. So let's go back to our camera screen. All right. Anyway, I wanted this video to be really short, but that coffee got me energetic. So I'm hyped up. So I was really ready. I think this might be an entertaining video. So you might want to check this out on YouTube. It's going to be on YouTube. And there's a promo to this video on TikTok. So Thank you for following this and watching this video. I hope it was educational, because I want to be educational and entertaining at the same time. I hope you learned something, learn a little bit of weather. I'm going to turn all of you into seasoned meteorologists if you keep it locked right here to this YouTube channel. My name is Dooley Goudeau. Thanks for watching. And remember, all my sources and links will be in the description of this video, because I don't steal. I give credit to the folks who provided this data for me to use to bring you guys this content. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good Martin Luther King Day. And if you're on the East Coast, remember to be storm ready and winter prepared. Have your emergency kit if you're going to be out on the roads. Make sure you get your bread and milk before, if you're in the far northeast, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont, because the full brunt of the storm quite haven't reached you yet. So you have time to get out to the market. I don't think you're going to have to worry about freezing rain up there, just heavy snow and rain along the coast. So thank you and have a good day, and thanks for watching.